lived a life torn apart. We turn away, but it's happening. The blood's on our hands, on our hearts. What have we done to these children? What do they see? What do they know? Their homes are gone, they're crying, while our taxes fund the show. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah, yeah, yeah. What's in your head? In your head? While our taxes fund the show. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah. They're dying, castles burning, no denying, and the walls they keep on rising, while the world keeps on lying. They're dying, no more voices, no more crying, what we pay for keep denying, but the truth's shining. Iraq's in ruins, it's endless, twice torn apart by our greed. Deserts turn to battlegrounds, but who profits from their need? The innocent scream unheard, while missiles strike from the sky. We're fed the lies and we believe, while the people, they just die. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah, yeah, yeah. What's in your head? In your head? While our taxes fund the show. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're dying,
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We're finally here at the end of the week. It is Friday,
True.
May the 9th. I'm not sure if yesterday I called it April. I might have. I don't know.
Please. Yeah. Listen. I mean, we could be transmonthist. We
That's
can make
true.
whatever month we want it to be. So,
Well, the thing is, when
but
you're
we'll just roll with it.
unemployed, it's like every day is just like a day, and you just have things you have to do. So, here we are. It's May the 9th. You are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, because we bring you way too much information. The Ted, I think, is scuba diving today. Maybe in the Arctic, maybe. Clubbing seals. Sounds like something Ted would do, right?
Well, if he does club a seal, I hope he cooks it and eats it. Because no, I love to hunt, but no, if you go out hunting and you kill something, the rule is you got to eat it.
That is the rule. That is the rule of the jungle. Of course, I'm just making things up because we don't know exactly what Ted is doing.
Yeah, we don't have a clue, honestly.
Literally, like it's super secret, low profile. I don't know what Ted's up to. So I don't know. Maybe today he's scuba diving. So the Ted is not here. That is the Robby. He's the producer of this show, filling in for Ted. And of course, I'm Manila Chan. So warning, if you're new to the show, not safe for work. Sometimes bad things are said, naughty things. Sometimes F-bombs, although less of them because Ted's not here.
Yeah.
But more importantly, Robby, whatever it is we discuss, no matter how hot the topic is, everybody on this show manages to remain friends, and we laugh along the way, because I think that is ultimately the most important thing, is that the news is the news, and this is not you, this is not me, this is not each individual viewer.
Well, it would suck.
It's stuff beyond our control.
The world would truly and utterly suck, Manila, if everyone agreed on everything and thought the exact same way. What kind of a boring, crappy world would that be? It would suck.
No, I agree with that part. However, the problem with a lot of the world today is that they can't get past the topics of politics and the news and then see other people as that could potentially be their friends that have different opinions So, everyone gets into their stupid little political tribes, and this show is not like that because there's 3 people with very different views. Sometimes things overlap. Sometimes some of the stuff overlaps, like a Venn diagram. And that, I think, is how the world actually works. But if you pay attention to the mainstream, it will tell you that you're going to have to be far left, or you're far right, or you're in this bucket or that bucket. And I think that's all kind of stupid. So this show is this melting pot of all these different ideas. And we do this Monday through Friday live. We are live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. So please be sure to like and follow this show wherever you're consuming the content. If you are a premium Rumble, a Rumble premium subscriber, you will have already noticed perhaps that the Mark Sloboda premium content was posted last night. It is up there for your enjoyment on this Victory Day. I guess it's post-victory. I don't know. It's many hours past the parades over in Moscow and everything that's happened in Europe because, of course,
they celebrate for 3 days, don't they?
They do like a 4-day thing in Moscow. So it's like Memorial Day, except they get it for many more days. They get Memorial Days. We get the 1 day. So there's that. And if you are not yet a Rumble premium subscriber, if you're watching us on Rumble, right below this talking box, you can see the big red button there that says Rumble Premium. If you click that button and become a paid Rumble subscriber, you will help this show directly. We get a small percentage of everybody that joins the premium content. You'll be able to see our premium. You'll be able to see our content and all the official creators at Rumble, including, like Kim Iverson and Louder with Crowder or whoever else, Russell Brand, all those people, official content creators. You'll be able to see their stuff uninterrupted, no commercials on any channel. Actually, if you watch regular content, there's no commercials.
You can even see the premium Putin Bot gaming content. Which is the most important channel that's on Rumble, second to the TMI show.
Obviously, Robby. So thank you for those premium subscribers, and we are going to be bringing you lots more content. So as we get used to, how this new program works. So hopefully you guys are enjoying. So with that, we're keeping the show short. We both have appointments after this. Next week, I actually have like a more important appointment, which I'll get to another day. It's not health related. I mean, it is health related, but it's more cosmetic because, I had the reconstruction done after the mastectomies. And let's just say my body's not too thrilled having new parts put in.
So I don't know about this appointment, so I'll be finding out with everybody else.
Yeah. Well, seeing that they're breast implants, it's not like they're going like in different directions, or cross-eyed or anything, but there's just, I don't know. I don't feel as right that it might require some medical intervention to make sure things are where they need to be.
That helps.
So, but the whole function of them is like gone.
There are so many things I would say, but we're on YouTube right now, so I can't.
So I'm being delicate about this. It's the first thing. Anyway, I'll know more after next week, but it's not a health thing, thankfully. But we have other appointments today, so we will get to the show. I should probably click the right things. Time to jaws it and then head straight to the news. And I'm going to try to prevent Robby from pissing off 1.4 billion Catholics. So here we go. Yeah.
Good luck.
All right. So that, of course, is the first story of the day. A new Pope Leo the 14th, elected Pope yesterday, late afternoon, not late, but mid-afternoon for us. It was around 1:30 in the afternoon, just after lunch on Thursday, the 267th Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. He was elected or selected, however you want to call it. However, there's already some drama. There's some drama around Pope Leo, Robby, because apparently on his social media, in the past, because yes, priests and bishops and all of them, they have social media too.
Sure. I mean, they're not
And
monks. I
right,
mean,
they use technology. So apparently he posted some stuff that some people construe as critical of Donald Trump. So Trump world, um,
well, it's
the
because it
different kind of
is.
MAGA, Trump MAGA, Trump MAGA is really, really upset with the new pope already, and he hasn't even been there 24 hours. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, or Prevost, from Chicago, became the first American to be elected pope by the College of Cardinals. In this, they call it a 2-day election, but really, it really only lasted like 24 hours. So in that second day, he was elected. As we know, Pope Francis died last month. The new pope most recently shared columns on Twitter that disputed Vice President Vance's interpretation of the Christian Ordo Amoris in February that included a letter from the previous pope. He also shared an article that slammed Trump's anti-immigration rhetoric as dangerous back in 2015. So this is Trump's first go around as president when he posted that. And he also called for the ending of the death penalty and reposted messages about migrant deportations. And he, because he's an American, he criticized Congress's inaction on gun laws after mass shootings. That's all according to the publication The Hill.
Mhm.
Now, he is a member of the Order of St. Augustine. Pope Leo XIV, who evoked the saint, who is one of the church's most influential theologians. His choice of name might also offer clues as to how he will lead the church, what his intentions will be, how they emulate his widely beloved predecessor, because he was put into the College of Cardinals. He was one of the 80 people in the, I think, 133 within the College of Cardinals. So think of them as the electors, right, of this governing body. Pope Francis placed 80 people that he handpicked, and Prevost, now Leo, was one of those 80 people that he selected. So it's very likely that he'll continue a lot of what Francis was doing before him. And Prevost's most famous papal namesake, Leo the 13th, we believe is where he drew the name inspiration from. The inspo, as it were, was a progressive who helped push the church into the modern age, they say. And obviously, I'm no theologian, I'm no expert in this. I'm a non-practicing Catholic, if there is such a thing. But there's a lot of critics as well. This guy, we should say, is not only American, but he's from the south side of Chicago. He's mixed race. His dad was apparently French and something else. French and something. His mother was Spaniard and from what I heard, perhaps mixed Peruvian, Central or Latin American of some sort. So he's multiracial. He's from the south side of Chicago. He is an alumni of Villanova University, which is obviously very famous for its basketball team, because they're always like they frequently make it to like the Final Four, and they're always like Sweet 16. And anyway, he went there. He was a mathematician. So that's pretty impressive. Smart dude. So that, I don't know what to expect. I never imagined in my lifetime that I would see an American pope. And the reason, Robby, the reason that was like always a saying within the Catholic community was that they would never elect an American pope because, through the 20th century, the United States has been the world hegemon.
Mm-hmm.
And they always said that with this being the biggest church in the world, the Roman Catholic order, is that if you can't give this power to the Americans either. So that was kind of the argument always against having an American pope, was that you can't have the most powerful man in the world sit in Washington and then have the second most powerful, arguably the second most powerful man in the world sitting at the Vatican also being an American. So that was the argument. But I think this is going to be like a big thing for American Catholics and revive more interest in the church, if not more membership into Roman Catholicism. So I think that's an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, as far as the whole thing about the Pope and, well, the Catholic Church as a whole in the United States, especially when we still actually remembered what America was that America was founded in a large part based on religious freedom, and it was Protestants fleeing Europe to flee the persecution of the Catholic Church. So, I mean, that was a big part of that tradition. Then, like whenever John F. Kennedy, whenever he was elected, there was a lot of concern because he was a Catholic. And so there's a real concern that, you know, if you're a Catholic, if you believe that the Pope speaks for Jesus, then you kind of have to do what the Pope says. And so then at that point, you know, back in the 60s, it's just like, who's going to be the real president? Is it going to be President Kennedy, or is it going to be the Pope at the time? And he was like, no, I'm an American. And so I think it just kind of just shows just the breakdown of societal and religious norms here in America, you know, where now you can have an American Pope, whereas 80 years ago it would have been unthinkable, but not just from a political standpoint, but from a historical standpoint as well. Just people back then still remembered, you know, why the country was founded in a large portion from that. Like, there's a reason why the Pilgrims came here. If it wasn't because they wanted to go steal land from Indians, it's because they wanted religious freedom. They were being persecuted by the Church of England and by the Catholics in mainland Europe, and that just no longer exists anymore.
Yeah, and this new Pope Leo XIV, he already held his first mass. That's what we're looking at on screen today. I mean, it must have been a whirlwind day for this dude, but I've seen videos from all around the country of Catholics, non-Catholics, people actually cheering as if this was like their sports bets, right? Like their team won. They're like, but yeah, this is, you know, whatever you think of the guy, the fact that he hails from Chicago is a big deal. The fact that he's an American is a big deal. Like, that's just never happened.
What would impress me more about him is, you know, since he's so in, you know, with the, you know, criticizing Trump, wanting to have open borders, then I have a suggestion for the new Pope. Disband the Swiss Guards and tear down the walls around the Vatican and invite everyone in. So lead by example. If that's the standard, then he is the Pope. He is the ruler of the Vatican. He can do this. Lead by example. Show us how it works, Pope Leo. Show me how it works for you.
The Swiss Guards in their funny uniforms, which I think are kind of cool. But kind of funny. But I think the fact that he comes as an American Pope on the heels of the second American Pope. Excuse me, duh. No, he's not. I was going to say he was the first Catholic, that Biden was the first Catholic. That's not true, because John F. Kennedy was. So we've had 2 ever American presidents being Catholic. And just as Biden has stepped off the scene, another new big Catholic appears on the scene for America. So, you know, in some ways, if you're taking bets, this is a big win for a lot of people. And I think it's kind of neat to see. It's just kind of neat. That's all. I don't know what else to say about it other than it in and of itself, him being American is kind of neat. The dude spent a lot of time in, like, 30 years or something in Peru. He's fluent in multiple languages, and that's always the case, right? So that's where his diocese was, right here in this northwesterly portion of Peru. And he's fairly young. We're going to have him around for a long time. He looks to be in good shape. He's 69 years old. 69. He's turning 70. He's turning 70 this year. I don't know when exactly his birthday is, but in the coming months. So let's just say 70. These popes, as you saw with Francis and Ratzinger before him, Benedict, I should say, I think Benedict was like in his 90s, but he stepped down in his late 80s. So this could be a very long tenured pope. So
it could be, and it'll be one thing. So I think that kind of like if he follows on with what Francis did and just stacks the College of Cardinals, I mean, oh yeah, I mean, he could definitely, if you want to just go full on woke Catholic, he has the power to make it happen.
He can't. He'll be around a long time, and then he'll be able, if you want to talk about it that way, stack. It's like stacking SCOTUS, stacking the courts.
That's exactly what it is. What's the difference?
What he could do. Yeah, that's basically what it is. All right. Next story. And I would say this was arguably just as big. It could impact about that many people, at least way more in terms of dollars. People probably heard Trump announced a trade deal that had been struck. I mean, literally just moments before the new pope was announced, Trump announced this deal with the UK. So the details are still scarce. I thought by now that we would have like a full breakdown, like a whole booklet that was released on here's the tariff on this and just full breakdown. None of that has been released. So the best we can call it right now is a framework on the US-UK trade deal. It's a framework. It's not totally finalized, but it's been agreed upon. It hasn't been technically signed by both parties. I think Parliament still has things to hash out. It's weird that this deal was struck over the phone, but it was. And there's video of that, of those moments happening on either side of the Atlantic. But Trump said the UK would fast track U.S. items through its customs process and reduce barriers on billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of agricultural, chemical, energy, and industrial exports, including beef and ethanol. Sometimes beef and ethanol together. Mm-hmm. The British government said U.S. auto tariffs would be reduced to just 10% and metals duties to 0%. So the U.S. is going to be able to ship metals and all of that for no tariff, and American autos to 10%. Now, in making his first official agreement, Trump chose an ally that decided to broker with him rather than retaliate against him for those tariffs. Remember when he first announced this, it was kind of like a Rorschach test. He wanted to test people to see how they were going to respond to him. Mexico, Sheinbaum was vocal about it, but she didn't slap tariffs in return. So Trump is now willing to work deals. Anybody that that clapped back at him,
like China,
he responded back. It's been a pissing match back and forth. The UK, for Starmer's part, he didn't do that. So for the UK, it seems like their mainstream news is couching this as an easy win for the Labour government. Quote, this is from Keir Starmer. He said, serious, pragmatic, in-the-room negotiations acting in the national interest are far better than performative politics. That is a direct quote coming from Sir Keir Starmer. Then on the news of that, American stocks rose. Trump, speaking from the White House, as the UK Prime Minister joined in on speakerphone, that's what we're looking at right now, said their deal would include new access to the UK market for American industrial products and, quote, dramatically increase access for ag products like beef and ethanol. I just hate that together, beef and ethanol, while allowing fast track customs for U.S. exports as well. So again, this is just a framework. They haven't released.
I wonder if they soaked the beef in the ethanol.
I think so. The devil is in the details, Robby. It's always that. The devil is in the details. So for its part, the UK is expected to get a dramatic cut in auto tariffs. Trump originally slapped it at 27.5%. It's now down to 10%. But for some reason, it's only for an allotted amount of cars, 100,000 vehicles, as well as eliminating tariffs on steel and aluminum that it'll send to the U.S. So that's a reciprocal thing. We're not going to hit the UK on metals trade. A baseline 10% tariff on other exports will remain in place. So it's a very small amount that I think won't hurt either parties on either side of the Atlantic. Quote, this is now turning out really, I think, to be a great deal for both countries, Trump says, asserting saying that the UK would now be part of an economic security blanket with the US. I don't know what I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. But one other thing, I think that Trump really missed a golden opportunity here, because if he wants to end the war in Ukraine, which I do believe I do think he wants to, he could have tied this in. Like he could have said, I will give you this sweetheart economic deal. I will be your sugar daddy. I will give you an economic security blanket and make Britain great again.
I'll be your
provided
blanket.
you cut off the Ukrainians.
Right. Get off the stupid That's true too. That's probably true too.
I mean, he could have strong-armed the Brits into ending their support, but he didn't.
Yeah, especially since Keir Starmer is in a really weak position among his population. Labor barely got back into power after so many, more than a decade out of power. And Keir Starmer is very not beloved. So he really could have strong-armed Starmer into doing anything. But Starmer did make note of that announcement of the deal, that it occurred 80 years to the day that the former Prime Minister Winston Churchill told the British people World War II had ended. Starmer said, this is really a historic, fantastic day, because it just happened on the anniversary, I guess. So Trump may be making nice with Starmer, but on the other side of the English Channel, the Euros, they seem to be itching for a fight. So Ursula von der Leyen, who's the new EU boss, she's planning on hitting the US with 95 billion euros, 95 billion worth of additional tariffs on US products. That equates to 108 billion on US exports, with additional tariffs if ongoing trade talks with Trump aides fail to yield whatever she defines as a satisfactory result. Those measures have been telegraphed for some time now and are arguably meant to strengthen the bloc's hand in coming negotiations with this U.S. administration. The proposed retaliatory tariffs would especially target industrial goods, including Boeing aircraft, U.S.-made cars, and bourbon, which was initially removed from the first list. So U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Rep Jameson Greer will meet with their Chinese counterparts in Geneva on Saturday in a bid to ease escalating tensions that have obviously led to these punishing tariffs between the U.S. and China. We're hovering at almost 150% at this point. So ahead of the meetings, Trump said that he does expect the tariffs to come down. So that's good news that Trump has a good outlook on this. The urgency of the meeting, coming just weeks after reciprocal tariffs took effect in April, suggests that the Trump administration is eager to de-escalate as economic costs begin to mount. China is scoping out whether Washington is actually ready to negotiate, and is framing these talks as U.S. initiated so they can engage without appearing, for the domestic consumption in China to be yielding to the Americans, because everybody wants to save face. That's the whole thing, right? Like everybody always wants to look strong.
But here's the thing: the Europeans aren't strong. I mean, the fact that they think that
no,
they
this
can
is
negotiate.
China. Talking about China. This last part was about China wanting to.
Well, no, I get it, but van der Leyen said that she was going to retaliate, and just trying to stand up to Trump. I mean, the fact that she thinks maybe it's all the hairspray she puts on her head. Maybe it's
a helmet head that she has.
Yeah, I mean, China is a peer competitor. China can eat America's lunch, especially now that it's linked up with Russia. I mean, that is a serious competitor. If I was the president, if the Europeans were getting all antsy, Manila, I tell you right now, what I would do is like, well, fine, I'm going to pull 100,000 American troops out of Europe. Good luck defending yourselves. Now you will do what I say, or you will defend yourself. China, you can't do that, but with Europe, you can. I mean, you have to negotiate with China. With Europe, they're kind of like this little yappy little puppy. Just shoot in the face with the water ball and be done with it. Just spray it.
Shoot.
Exactly. It's just a joke. Europe is a joke.
Well, the whole EU experiment, right? Like, what is it that they can do to the US? Like, honestly, there's not EU export of, we're looking on screen here, EU export of goods to the US. We are a large part of their business model, but they're not a large part of our business model. They're sure the luxury goods or whatever, but I mean, when you're a super rich person, like, are we really going to cry for you that you can't get the newest Louis Vuitton purse? I don't think so. That's not a big deal. Like, the big deal is the stuff coming from China that us normies use, right?
Yeah. Every day.
Right. So, I mean, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, I said I went to my local Dollar Tree and the shelves were already bare. And this was like early April before the tariffs crept up to 145. So the trade impacts were already visible. It says data from Beijing released Friday showed that China's exports to the United States plunged 21% in April compared to the same period last year. So year over year, there's over a 20% difference. China also saw factory output shrink in April and is racing to secure new markets. Russia. Yeah. Meanwhile, American retailers warn of holiday shortages and rising prices. So I think one of the funny things with von der Leyen here is that part of this is that she's the European Union leaders are still pissed at the UK and they hate Nigel Farage, pissed at the Brits for exiting the marriage, right? The whole Brexit thing was a big, I mean, they didn't want to let them go. The Europeans didn't want the Brits to regain their own independence. So this right now is, I think Nigel Farage is laughing all the way to the bank right now, because this is what Nigel Farage was campaigning for with the whole Brexit thing. And our friend George Galloway was also one of those people. He was pro-Brexit because he wanted to have national control over its own imports and exports and not have 26 other countries weigh in on what the UK can or cannot do, which I get. But now, on the same token, Starmer has agreed to those very things that Galloway was pushing against many years ago when I had the old show in question. Because like he said, he used to call me a Yank and tell me to keep our chlorinated chicken, that he didn't want that. But here's Starmer allowing the imports of our chlorinated chicken and our planes, $10 billion worth of our planes that are just going to, give you a wild ride and a door that might blow off while you're midair in Boeing. But this is it's a risk that the British took to regain their sovereignty, regain their independence and what they want to do and lead and have the country they want to have, which because of that, I was a fan of Brexit as well, because I think these unions, that these groupings, these marriages, these unholy unions of these countries that have very competing interests many times, right? Many times they're not the same interests. Every country has its own problems and shortcomings. And when you're forced into this block and you need to have consensus, that's not going to work. There's too many people in the bedroom. That ain't going to work.
Well, I mean, that's the nature of European, not European, but of international groups or agreements like this. Every time you make an agreement, whether it's BRICS, the European Union, the United Nations, anytime that you enter into any kind of these organizations, you do it at the expense of your sovereignty. And I think that's what people are finally starting to wake up to, is like, if you want to have a country, you have to have borders so that way you can that way you can control your own destiny. If you are outsourcing your destiny to someone else or a bunch of someone else's, are you even a country at that point? Do you even exist? Are you a state, or are you nothing? And I think that's what they're finally starting to wake up to. The real question is did the British come around soon enough to be able to save their country from being destroyed? That's an open question.
I have to think that one through. Well, I mean, remember, the European Union is not that old. And I mean, maybe half our lives at this point. I don't remember what year the European Union became a thing, but I remember the whole issue with, the French being pissed off about their money turning into euros and not the francs, and
Sure.
and the Deutschmark and all of that. I remember all that controversy. I want to say it was like the late 90s.
Well, I missed that. And then you have, and then the entire idea is that your economics are based on a block
On each other, right? Which is the dumb thing.
Then
Because
that
you're using
determines
the same currency, it's in effect currency manipulation to each of those independent countries,
and
because
they also control
one
what you
euro,
can make.
right? One euro, let's say, as an example, 1 euro might buy you a glass bottle of Coca-Cola in, I don't know, let's say in Hungary, right? Might buy, but I take that one same euro and I go to London.
Mhm.
I can't buy a Coca-Cola with 1 euro in London. That's not what it costs.
Right.
So there's no congruency among the group, because they have vastly different interests and vastly different economies. How can you be in one big ass block? I get it if the block was like 3, 4, 5 nations, like, that are neighboring each other, that are small. But when you're big countries like Germany, France, and by GDP and things like that,
Sure.
the UK, how can you compare that to a small, tiny country? Let's say, I don't know, like Montenegro. Like,
Well, you
what is
can't. I
the
mean,
GDP in Montenegro?
well, think about it this way. I mean, Greece is insolvent. The only reason but the Greek state exists in any way, shape, or form right now, that has any economic viability, is because they, like the leech that they are lashed firmly onto Germany's backside. Well,
For
now
sure.
Germany's in an economic depression because the United States started a war, and America's not paying for that war. Germany is. And so now that's affecting the entire EU as a whole. And I hate to tell
Right.
people this, geography determines the destiny of nations. It does. Some nations are blessed with abundant resources. Some
Right.
aren't. Some are mountainous peninsulas. Look at you, Greece. Some of you are tiny little islands. Look at you, England. You don't have the same kind of resources as, say, Poland does or Slovakia does. There's a reason why the Slovak prime minister is in Moscow right now for the Victory Days parade. It's because he's smart enough to realize the interests of Slovakia do not align with Brussels. And so he's playing nice with the Russians. And until Europeans start figuring out that they do have the right to be independent, that they have the right to have nations, that they have a right to be proud of who and what they are, they're going to keep on down this way, hitting themselves in the face with a shovel every day until they finally figure it out.
Yeah, I think this EU experiment has gone on for more than 2 decades, and it's like, how much longer do you need to see that that the medicine is not helping the disease? It's not killing the disease.
Well,
It's actually making it worse.
Well, unless the entire idea is to kill the idea of a nation state and just have a stateless global system,
Which people would argue
could
is the
be.
WEF, the
Of
point
course.
of Klaus Schwab's whole existence. Even though he's just stepped down, it doesn't mean that's ending. But maybe there's a little rift there in, like, the whole new world order that was outlined by the World Economic Forum in the past 25 years, that they've really been preaching that. Maybe they're starting to see that. I don't know. Was the world a better place before or after the idea of these national, these blocks, I shouldn't say national, these international blocks, that I get it if you're, like, trying to be a small economic block, but you can't be both an economic block, a defense block, and just all of these things, like, all rolled into one, because then, like you said, Robby, when do you cease being your own independent country if your block not only includes economic, but now there's a layer of security to it, there's a layer of welfare to it, there's a layer of open borders that each one allows people to drive back and forth without any checks and no balances. So at what point do you
Even if
cease
you're not
being a
European.
nation?
And it's,
Right.
and I think, that there's a big argument.
Right.
I'm a
So you
nationalist.
get into one EU country, you can just drive through all of them.
Sure. And I mean, you can make the
So
argument, and I'm going to use, again, demographics, just like geography, determine destiny of nations. Before the European Union was a thing, before you had this globalist experiment, you didn't have a problem with birth rates. You didn't have a problem with mass poverty. You did not have the problems that we have now. You do not have a problem with having to import the third world because your domestic population cannot make babies. So I would argue that the idea of the nation state is superior to what we have right now, if just looking at the demographic numbers. So I'd recommend that we go back to that here in America, in Europe, in Asia. It is okay to be Japanese or be Korean or be American. It is okay. It's okay to make babies. It is okay to be you. It is all right to be a part of your own civilization. It's not a bad thing.
yeah. So this, I don't get why Ursula von der Leyen is throwing shade on the US when I personally, I think she's salty still, 5-6 years later after the Brexit move. I think she's still salty about it. And I think she's also going to try to work out a deal between the EU and the UK. This is like an old divorced couple.
Sure.
Like trying to figure out visitation with the kids and like trying to figure out, they're in court, dragging each other to court to see the discovery. Like, well, I heard you got a raise. I heard, whatever. I heard you got a new wife. You got a new girlfriend. You got whatever. So I think she's going to try to drag the UK down because
Sure.
she's still pissed off. Whether or not the UK deal with the US is a good one, that's up for debate. But what I think is not debatable is that the European Union, especially led by an angry ex-NATO face in von der Leyen, she's angry that the UK left the European Union to this day, and she's going to look to strike back on the UK as well to punish them for the divorce. So
I think it's more than that. I think that she has finally got. I think she finally has the realization that she and Europe as a whole are not as powerful as she thought that they were, and
yeah,
I think
consulting.
that really has her butt hurt. And so,
Sure.
I mean, the only reason I could think of why she'd be advocating to send European troops into Ukraine, which the Russians have said, if you do this, we will kill them, is to try and show that we are not weak, even though that they are. I mean, there's abject denial of reality.
Yeah,
I think it's what it is. It's a suicidal mentality.
It's her background coming out of like NATO and stuff like that I think it's in her nature to want to fight. So this is who's in charge of the EU now, and I think she's going to try to pick a fight with the UK next. Yep. Because it looks as if the UK now has sided with America, and she doesn't like that. So
the UK has no choice. I mean, culturally, Britain was more aligned with the United States, and economically, I mean, let's be honest. If you look at Europe,
British refugees kind of founded this whole country. So.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also, I mean, just from an economic standpoint, what does Europe have that Britain needs? Europe doesn't have natural gas. Europe doesn't have the natural resources that it needs. There's a reason why imperialism started in the first place. Is because the resources that they need for the Industrial Revolution do not exist on the European continent. You have to go somewhere else. Well, where are you going to go? If you have an 80,000 man army and half of them are secretaries, what are you going to do? You got to make a deal with someone who actually can protect you, because protecting your state is the most important thing.
Right.
Second, who is it that can actually help your economy keep going? There's only one country that will do that and let them keep trying to poke the Russian bear. That's America, because we're stupid.
Yeah, so obviously Starmer came over here to Big Daddy.
Yeah.
He came to Big Papa.
Yeah.
So that's the end of that one. So it's funny how, once upon a time the UK had their jackboots on the colonies' necks, and now it's the other way around. So in a weird nationalist way, I'm going to go, what a funny turn of events. Yeah. But there you go. But so now Trump is probably, he'll clap back, because now that he's got Starmer in this headlock, he'll
Well,
defend his boy.
Well, most people don't realize that the United States is the nation that was directly responsible for the destruction of the British Empire. We bankrupted it in World War II. Like, we made them send us their gold through the Bretton Woods Agreement. We destroyed them economically. So,
good point.
I mean, no, it is what it is. We are the heir.
Well, now speaking of economies being destroyed, to ones that Trump was trying to destroy, China's and Russia's, obviously, which I think is still failing, not working. So what's happening here? Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping held bilateral meetings in Moscow, the first time the two leaders have met in person since Trump unleashed this new trade war. Trump's tariffs and defense policies have damaged ties with allies from Europe to Japan, as he also removes America from global institutions. While the main target of Trump's tariffs is China, the Republican who has repeatedly praised Putin, sort of praised-ish, gave Russia a pass. That's worth noting. Gave Russia a pass when it came to his famous, 180 nation long list of tariffs. When it was like that big.
We're not trading with them. There's nothing to tariff. You can't trade with someone if you're not trading with them. So I mean that entire thing is a misnomer. I mean,
right? Totally.
I cannot place a tariff on Russian resources like fertilizer, which here in Montana we used to import it, a lot of it. A very agricultural state. Now farmers here are and ranchers having to pay a lot more for fertilizer because they can't get it from Russia. Why can't we get it from Russia? Because we're not importing it. If we're not importing it, you can't tariff it. I mean, the entire thing is retarded.
Right. That's an excellent point.
Are you allowed to say retarded? Is that one of the banned words?
No, that's one of the words that Trump has allowed to come back into being.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Because it's retarded.
Donald Trump has said it's fine. But this is, mind you, this is a report coming from Bloomberg. I'm reading from Bloomberg. They're trying to chide Trump for not adding Russia to the. I get the political reason that they're trying to do this. They're trying to say, because they both said that Trump has repeatedly praised Putin and he didn't put Russia on the tariff list. But it's like,
hey, for Bloomberg,
you don't have.
We could always lift the sanctions, start doing business with Russia again, and then put tariffs.
And then you can tariff it.
And then you can tariff. But I mean, you got to pick one or the other. I mean, it's a binary choice.
It says, before Trump's return to the White House, unprecedented Western sanctions over Putin's war on Ukraine pushed Moscow to increase trade ties with China, increasingly seen as the senior partner in the relationship. Bilateral trade hit a new record of $245 billion in 2024, up 68% from 2021, according to Chinese customs data. At their meeting, Xi and Putin discussed the proposed power of the Siberia 2 gas pipeline project. Mm-hmm. Russia has been pushing to secure China's agreement for that new pipeline. So, yeah, if the Germans don't want Nord Stream 1 and 2, they don't want, they invested something like $13 billion into those pipelines. Mm-hmm. If they don't want it, that's fine. The Chinese will they'll build a pipeline and it'll just cut through Siberia straight into China. Totally fine. Like, this is, plenty of buyers out there.
If your opponents commit suicide, more power to them. They have the right to kill themselves if they so choose.
If Ursula von der Leyen doesn't want to try to renegotiate any ties, if she wants to continue the war talk, if she wants to now move from NATO war talk to trade war talk because war talk is her only talking point, that's fine. The Chinese will just continue to buy more and more cheap Russian crude, cheap Russian gas. Okay, fine. And the Russians, they'll just be able to get all of the production that they need for cheap goods by way of China. I mean, these two are friends. Look at them. Like, they're very casual and comfortable together. Body language says a whole lot. And like I said yesterday, the fact that Xi Jinping came not only for the Victory Day parade, which that was the first thing. He showed up for this thing. This is the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II we're looking at. That's the 2025 parade. Xi Jinping and a whole bunch of other leaders showed up. I mean, but Robby, I thought Russia was isolated and nobody was their friend.
Well, that's what happens when you have delusions of grandeur. Like if you think that if you still think that this is 1840 and that Europe is the center of the world, then yes, you can isolate another nation by cutting them off. However, if you live in this thing called the real world, you realize that Europe is now a backwater. It is not the power that it used to be. And I hate to tell the Europeans this, but you are no longer the masters of the universe. Asia through most of world history has been where things are. That's where things happen. The Chinese civilization is over 3,000 years old. They're around for a reason, and it is a traditionally China, even through all their civil wars and stuff, it was a very mercantile, very economic based system. Like China doesn't wage wars because it doesn't need to. They'd rather make money through business rather than war.
Right.
Russia understands this, and also if you have a block of countries led by the United States, which is a superpower, that says it is my goal not only to be your competitor, but I want to destroy you. I want to break you into as many small pieces as I can. It's not that much of a stretch for the other two superpowers to take that other nation at its word and work together to contain and weaken the nation that is spending itself into oblivion with $38 trillion in debt, open borders. We can't even agree what the hell an American is anymore. We don't even know what bathroom to go to anymore. So if your enemy is going to destroy themselves, let them do it. Work together. Just outlast them.
Yeah, there was an image a moment ago of Putin, I guess, by himself and not next to other world leaders. So I think it's a big show of diplomatic force on behalf of China and Russia. The fact that all of these world leaders that the U.S. has now picked fights with for one reason or another, they're all rubbing elbows at right here in Red Square. And they're all hanging out and having lunch and there's Xi Jinping right behind the podium. He's got the VIP slot. There's all of these other world leaders there that really don't care what the United States has to say about their attendance. Because remember, the U.S. has used its soft power by way of media to try to throw shade on all of these other world leaders that are showing up. Like the Cuban delegation or the Kazakh delegation, whoever, trying to throw shade on them. But it just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't have the same bite that it used to have in the 90s or the early 2000s. It doesn't work anymore.
Well, it's because Americans have forgotten our history. And the thing is that the Russians and the Chinese, they remember, just like the people in Southeast Asia and Laos and Vietnam, they remember. No, in World War II, in Europe, it started in 1939. It started in Asia in 1937 when Japan invaded China, and somewhere between 30 to 40 million Chinese were butchered by the Japanese fascists. They remember this, and the Japanese went into through southern China through Taiwan. There's a reason why the Chinese are so hung up on Taiwan.
They occupied Laos too.
Yeah, they did 100%.
The Chinese freed Lao, the Lao people of Japanese occupation.
Yeah. Funny story. An American general is actually the one that was commanding the Chinese army that did it. General Stilwell.
Weird.
Yeah. He called Chiang Kai, his nickname for Chiang Kai-shek was Peanut. He hated Chiang Kai-shek. Hated him with a passion. But yeah, I mean, they remember. And Japan China's been the victim of imperialization in the century of humiliation. Right. Russia has been invaded 3 times in the last 150 years by the West. They remember. And so if you have a block of nations that say we hate you and we want what you have, then it only makes sense that you work with the other countries that victim of that, work together, make sure that never again really means never again. It's common sense.
Yeah. And in this case, we're just, all these people came to commemorate and show respect of World War II because it was, in fact, a world war.
It was.
Like literally Laos? Like people are like, what little old Laos? Like they don't even know where it is on a map. And they're like, that was part of World War II. Yes. Yes,
It was
there was
everywhere.
Japanese occupation and it was truly a world war. Even some random ass little small islands in the South Pacific were bombed. There were, like Japanese vessels there. It was literally everywhere. So it truly was a world war. And people forget, their history and what the history is. And so for whatever reason, if you don't like that these people, these delegations from all around the world are in Red Square today, it's at least to show respect to the people that lost their lives and that took, that freed the world of German Nazism and
Yeah.
potential. And on the East, it would have been Japanese imperialism.
Yeah. And the Japanese, I mean, I submit to you, the Japanese are far worse than what the Germans were. I mean, the Japanese were
Yeah, that's
freaking
what I've heard.
sadistic. I mean, they were
That's what I heard.
animals.
So, I mean, like basically the idea would have been because remember Hitler had the deal with the Japanese to say, okay, you all yellow gooks stay over there. And you guys rule all the yellow people. And we're going to rule all the pale skinned people all over here on the Western side. You guys keep the Eastern side of the globe and they'll all speak German over here and they'll all speak Japanese over there. Deal? Deal. That was the whole agreement. And otherwise, that's why all these nations are there, because they were at threat of becoming colonized by the Japanese. And if you were from a European state, a Western state, you were at threat of being forced to become a German speaker. And you would be speaking German at this point if it wasn't for the Soviet Red Army. So, there's that. And I hate that the Western European nations that were doing these celebrations yesterday, like for VE Day in France and in wherever, right? France, Germany, that they disinvite any Russian delegation.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well, I mean, you cannot honor the military history of a nation that you are actively at war with. So, I mean, that would be kind of weird. I mean, well, I should say actively at war because we're not bombing each other. But if you're in a proxy war, you can't on one hand talk about how the Russians are a bunch of orcs and they're coming from Mordor and that they're going to march on Paris, and then invite them over to the VE Day celebration and then give them a chance to explain, well, no, actually, that we did all the heavy lifting. While y'all were playing in Sicily, we were fighting in Kursk. I mean, you can't really do that. It doesn't work.
yeah, it to me, it's just an affront to actual world history, and you're rewriting history by trying to erase the Russians from at least have a delegation there to be civil, to honor and respect the 26 million Soviets who died to free Western Europe of the Nazi jackboot. But who am I to judge? I was over here, not born yet in America, so
Yeah, you
I
wouldn't
could have been.
you wouldn't gleam in your granddaddy's eye at that point. So
No, I mean, I could have been born. I don't know. Remember, I'm Asian. People don't know how old I am. I could be 107. I
that
don't
is
know.
true. You're not like us whiteys, where I mean, one day you're young, next minute you're a raisin. Kind of like Filipinos, they're that way.
As they say, black don't crack, Asian don't raisin.
My kids have got some great genes. I just want to say that
They got good skin.
they do.
Got good skin.
They got my hair and the wife's
pretty
skin.
Well, they're mixed skin. They have that real nice caramel color. So they're not going to crack and they're not going to raisin.
No.
So they got, nature selects for the best of both from each parent. So
yeah, my son has his first girlfriend now. He is so Dad, I'm so nervous. So what do I do?
Oh my God. I'm nervous.
Just treat her right.
I don't want to hear it.
Just treat her good.
Oh, he's a full-blown teenager. I don't like it.
He is.
I remember when he was just like a little, just a few years ago. Anyway, that's a whole thing. That's a whole different discussion. But yeah, they got that good skin color.
Yeah. Rabbit trail.
Nice skin. All right, let's go on to this topic here. I don't have much to say about this India-Pakistan topic. other than just to update the use of drones. So Pakistan says Chinese fighter jets were used to respond to these military strikes by India as tensions in the region escalate. Foreign Minister Ishak Dar reportedly told Parliament that Chinese J-10C jets were used to shoot down 5 Indian fighter jets along the border, including a French-made Rafale jet. The two countries also said they shot down each other's drones back and forth, like countless drones, can't even count them anymore, and shot down some missiles over what they claim some densely populated cities. In a second day of these hostilities, the most recent flare-up between these nuclear-armed neighbors obviously was triggered by last month's deadly militant attack against tourists in the disputed Kashmir region. Pakistan's army shot down several Indian drones over these major cities, including Lahore, Rawalpindi, and just outside of Karachi. These are major cities, by the way.
Yep.
According to one of the Pakistani spokespeople. India's Ministry of Defense separately said in a statement that they neutralized Pakistan's attempts to strike what he says was a number of military targets in northern and western India using drones and missiles on Wednesday and Thursday. So this has become like a military showdown by way of technology. I mean, sure, there are people on the ground being killed, which is awful, but this is basically what it is. It's just going to be a tech showdown. So not much else to say there, Robby. And before we go, one last quick bit of funny news, cute news, and I think all parents across the country are gonna think twice when you give your kid the phone. So I'm gonna send us off with something cute for happy Friday. We need cute sometimes.
Great ending. Yeah. That's a great ending. Love that.
Oh, all right, here we go.
I'm going to turn now to a story with a sweet ending. A second grader in Kentucky accidentally ordered more than 70,000 dum-dum lollipops on Amazon. Leah's mom, Holly, said her son spent $4,000 while playing with her phone. Amazon told her to reject the delivery, but despite tracking it, 22 boxes showed up. She did manage to reject the remaining 8 boxes, but that still left them with all those lollipops. And Holly's community, they stepped up. Banks and doctors' offices buying the boxes, and some were also donated, which is a good thing. And Amazon eventually agreed to refund the full amount, saying they're glad they were able to, quote, turn a sticky situation into something sweet.
That's a great ending.
That I read the actual story, and the kid, he's 8 years old, and the mom allowed him access to her Amazon, and that was the actual thing, was because I read the New York Times story about it, and she said that she trusts him usually to just pick out items that he wants her to buy, and he'll put it in the shopping cart, and then she reviews it and says yes, no, or whatever. And in this case, I guess he just, I don't know, clicked like 30 boxes of lollipops and clicked buy without asking mom. Huh? But no. This is why you don't give them the access. I know it's unavoidable. My kid has his iPads, but there's no access to buying things. If he tries to even buy any Robux, it requires my fingerprint scan and a password. And like he cannot, I made it bulletproof, so my kid cannot access any of this stuff because that, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I do not blame you. Know that no, back in the day, I'm gonna date my wife a little bit. Mother's Day is coming up on Sunday, so happy Mother's Day, Manila.
Thank you.
Back when my wife was a kid, remember when the Time Life books would come on? They would have the Time Life books that come on the TV, and you have to call in and place your order over the phone.
Yes.
Well, they were doing something. I think she got to watch if you ordered some encyclopedias or some books.
Yeah.
And so my wife, she called in, and back then the operators, they were not supposed to let you do it. They processed through the order and they sent it.
Yeah. If you sound like a kid, they're supposed to be like, "Can you put your mom or dad on the phone?"
Yeah. So I guess what she did is that she kind of deepened her voice or something, just trying to make herself sound like she was older than what she was, because she wanted the watch. So she ordered these books and the books came in, her mama got a bill, and she never did that again.
Gee, I wonder why she never did that again, Robby.
Yeah. I could tell you, but we're on
Things-
YouTube.
Yeah, things that people used to do in the 80s is all I can guess.
Yeah. Corporal punishment is not unheard of in the South. So I'm just gonna put that out there. It's a very
Yes.
real thing. And there's still no mamas in yoga pants who will look at you bad for if you swat Junior on the butt, unlike there are in
public?
major cities. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, no, that used to be everywhere, and that's probably why there's a lack of respect. This can lead into a whole, I'm opening a can of worms, but this can lead to probably why a lot of the young kids now have no respect for elders and adults when they're out on the street. I'm not talking about talking back. I'm talking about not getting up for an old lady to have a seat on the metro or on the bus, not, obviously being outright rude to adults, and not showing any deference, is because our generation, Robby, we used to get swatted, so we're like gentle parenting to the children.
Yeah, I didn't get that memo.
Yeah, this boy, I don't know what his mama is going to do to make sure he never does that again.
Oh, I'm sure it's timeout or something. I mean,
I know.
Now you can't be doing that.
I just don't. Just prevent it from happening. It's like use a condom. My online condom is put every barrier possible, fingerprint, passcodes, like double check. You have to hit the ask button to send to my other phone and my email. So I have to go through, before anything gets bought, many, many, many layers of security. So that doesn't happen, because I feel like I don't know that I would do the gentle parenting if I got a $4,000 credit card bill.
I could not see you doing the gentle parenting. You seem to be well, you grew up similar to what I did. Working class family, and you had to make your dollar stretch. And if you do this, then you're going to pay a price. Like my son, I'll say this before we go. He wants he signed up. He bought an Xbox. I bought him an Xbox for Christmas a couple of years back, and he decided he wanted to get the Xbox gaming subscription. So he got my card and he subscribed to it. I got the bill.
Oh, he took your card?
He did. And so he was like, I don't know, 9, 10 years old. So after that happened, I waited for him to get home from school. I got his Xbox, took it out to the backyard, and I shot it. And said, there you go.
Robby!
I sent that thing to the next world. And then he got a spanking on top of it.
You destroyed the Xbox?
Well, I didn't. The bullet did.
But I mean,
I executed it. Yes. And then I told him,
you just spent all this money to buy the Xbox.
It doesn't matter. I'm teaching the boy. I'm teaching him a lesson. And then now he has a new one, but he had to work for that one, and he had to pay for it himself with his own money. So my son, he understands the value of $1. He understands the value of work, and guess what? He'll never steal from me again, because that's a lesson that he will never ever forget.
Oh,
I'm telling you,
fair enough.
Fuck around, find out. I will show you.
Fair enough. I have, full disclosure, I have checked with Robby before for some parenting tips, because obviously mine's only 6 and his are teenagers. So, and I've taken some of them and they've worked. So, think there's something to that. I just need to get over my whole California, like they have a voice and feelings too, Robby, and they need to voice their opinions, and
No, they don't. They 100% do not. No, this is my house. I am the dictator here. I feed you, I clothe you, I provide you with everything you need. You will do as I say. This is not negotiation. You will comply, or I will destroy you.
I've had to have, full disclosure, I've had these pep talks from Robby, obviously off camera, and I'm torn, and I've executed on some of them, and I hate to admit it, but they've worked. And yeah, it's all I'll say is they've worked.
No, you apply the Board of
Pretty
Education to the seat of knowledge, you will solve a lot of problems.
Yes. We'll leave that there. I don't think this boy got a good whacking for his disobedience of his mom and making her get a $4,000 credit card bill, but she handled it a lot better than I would have. That's all I'll say. So God bless her. To each his own. Raise your kid how, I guess so. Anyway, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Happy Mother's Day. I think in Europe they do it.
What caliber bullet did I use? I have a 40 caliber Jericho 941. Oh,
That's what you killed the Xbox with?
It is my sidearm. So I have it's a Israeli pistol. Great gun. Has a rifled barrel. Has an effective range of about 100 yards. Thing will just reach out and touch you. And I took out to the backyard and I put about 4 rounds into it. He was screaming. He was crying, "Dad, no!" My wife was like, "Robby, what are you doing?" So I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. And I sent that sucker straight to the next world, and I don't feel bad about it. And guess what? My son's never stolen again.
Well, that's an expensive lesson to learn.
But you know what? Yeah, it cost me money, but at the end of the day, Manila, one day my son is going to grow up. And the choices that he makes could cost him more if he makes bad ones than a $300 gaming box. So I would rather teach him that hard lesson and him not go to jail because he's stealing or shoplifting and learn the value of $1. So did it cost me something out of pocket? Yeah. But at the end of the day, the investment I made in my son was worth more than anything else that I could have done.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And that's why, if I can get outside my feelings of that moment and look down the line of what kind of man I want my son to grow up to be.
If you have an out of control kid, you're gonna have an out of control adult. I mean,
I agree. 100%.
That's the fact. So you beat him. The Bible says that you beat them, and I'm not talking about abuse. Don't abuse. Don't beat the crap out of them.
Whoop them to where it makes sense is what Robby's saying.
You leave some bruises. You leave some bruises. They'll figure it out.
That make that booty hurt.
Yes,
is what Robby's saying. Not
correct.
Not abusing your child.
Yeah, I mean, do
not abuse your child.
Yeah, don't kill your kid. I'm just saying. I mean, just.
But it's not a little slap on the butt or a slap on the wrist. Like
if you love your kid, you discipline them.
Right. Make sure the discipline sticks is what Robby's saying. I just want to be clear for the YouTube censors. We're not.
Don't beat the
not
crap out of them.
advocating child abuse.
No, I'm talking about discipline and abuse are two very different things, and that's what your California types need to figure out.
And because I'm born and raised there, and all my friends, I know. I agree, and that's why a lot of kids, like let's say in New York City, are running fucking rampant and out on the streets doing these stupid, sucker punch games for TikTok or whatever, so they can tape it. Just those teenage kids deserve a beatdown.
My son held a door open for a lady, and she got mad at him. Said, "Why are you holding a door open for me?" And it's because he's trying to show you respect. And so, well, I'm a woman. I don't need your respect. I said, well, obviously not, but you're going to get it anyway until you show that you're stupid. So it is what it is.
All of society's just got this backwards. Like there's no whatever. They got it backwards. But anyway, that was a cute story it's a dumb story with dum-dums. I'm going to say dum-dum mom.
Agreed.
And dum-dum lollipops. But anyway, God bless her. Happy Mother's Day to her too. She's a mom. Ours is Sunday. I think Europe and Mexico do different days, or the Latin culture does different days. I don't know. I don't remember, but I know we do Sunday. So happy Mother's Day. Tell Mrs. Putinbot happy Mother's Day.
I sure will.
We'll be back on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Again, please hit the like button if you haven't already done that, so you guys can help our algorithm and we can grow this channel. And if you're in the position to do so, join the Rumble Premium subscription by hitting that red button below my big old talking head here. And then you could see all of our new premium content that's coming out and everybody else's, and watch everything commercial free.
Yep.
Except for the live ad reads, I think. but that doesn't, I don't know how that works yet. We'll figure it out.
The live ad reads, that's still going to happen, but you won't have mid-roll.
Oh, do we have that today?
We don't have enough people on, so we're good.
Okay. So we're safe. Have a great weekend, everybody. Think of your mother. I hope whatever the relationship is, if it's not great for some people, hopefully you can make amends before they go off to meet Jesus one day. That's all I'll say. God bless all. New Pope Leo. Woo! Merca. Yeah.
I reckon. Like I said, he could always tear down that wall around the Vatican first and lead by example. Show me how you do it, Pope Leo. Show me how it works out for you.
White Sox fan,
not so well.
Apparently. White Sox guy. Villanova and White Sox. So there you go. All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.